Hi, and welcome to Rick's Room. So, this is the show where we pretend we're at the end of a busy day, perhaps at a conference. We finally get to the end where we have a chance to sit down and meet with somebody that we've wanted to talk to all day and haven't had a chance. In this case, it's Melissa Kozicki. She is the Director of Compliance for Mortgage Cadence. And I can't wait to talk to her today because, as you all know, the compliance landscape in home finance right now is all over the place. It's up in the air. It's going crazy. We don't know what to make sense of it. But fortunately, my guest today knows exactly what to make sense of because that is her full-time job. Melissa, thanks for being with me.
Thank you.
So give us the overview. Keep us from stepping off the cliff here in fear and frustration. What's your take on the landscape today?
Well, there's no doubt that there's churn, right? There's a ton of churn in the landscape right now. We've got the CFPB changes where they've rescinded some interpretive guidance. They have staffing changes. They presumably shifted their focus, changed who they're going to focus on examining. The states are saying they're going to fill that void. We've already seen some state legislation that seems to be attempting to fill that void. So there could be an impact on examinations. At the same time, the laws themselves haven't changed, right? So lenders aren't going to make a radical shift. They're going to keep doing what they've been doing in terms of following the law. We've also seen a lot of agency churn, and I think that's what sort of generates the most heartburn is the Fannie and Freddie, FHFA. We're learning things by ex posts, which for compliance officers is a new way to gather our information. Different initiatives starting, stalling, changing. To just today, we saw headlines, perhaps a merger of Fannie and Freddie, and that could really change how we operate. And we've also seen agencies like the VA, the FHA, the USDA either stepping up their technology game or as a result of staffing changes, funding changes, like the VA's API initiative, backing down their technology change. Their technology game. So there's a lot of churn going on with all of the agencies that we daily interact with.
So I want to make sure I'm hearing you right. There's a lot of change, but you're acting like it doesn't necessarily need to come front and center on the lender's desk yet. Or am I hearing you right?
You're hearing me correctly. I mean, there is not a lot of call to action for the lenders in some of these. No, granted, we want to be aware of what's being discussed. We want to think about it and how it could impact us. But I'm not a big believer in spending hours and hours a day gazing into my crystal ball because chances are I'm not going to get it right. So, for instance, with the FHFA initiatives, something is announced on X. So let's take the example of the new Vantage score. Awesome. It may help us get more borrowers qualified. We want to be excited as a lender and we want to think about how that could impact our operations. But the reality is we don't know what the pricing is going to be on it yet. We don't know how the agencies are going to rate the MBS. So it may not be something that we're ready to jump all over or change our underwriting criteria on, right? We don't have any actual guidance on how to apply that from the agencies. So there's awareness and then there's call to action. And to me, those are two different paths.
Absolutely. Now, I know that your team does a lot to support lenders when that actual call to action comes in. Do you want to tell me just a little bit about what your team will be doing behind the scenes during this time? Or is that
Sure, absolutely. I mean, we are having those conversations, same as lenders should be. How will this impact how will us? How will it impact our lenders? How will it impact the technology? And there's always an operational component to a technology change, right? So, I can't just throw a button on a screen and say, click that if you want to do something with the Vantage score. I need to think about what's the downstream impact for you. So we're having those discussions. But are we necessarily actively reprogramming everything for something that FHFA may do somewhere down the road? No. Another thing to think about is that the agencies in particular, Fannie and Freddie, operate, we call it the U's, right? The uniform model. So we have the uniform closing disclosure, the uniform loan delivery, the ULDD. So there's specs. I can't just throw information at DU for your underwriting. I need to receive new specs from Fannie and Freddie telling me how to send that information. So until those things happen, and then there's other dependencies, right? The credit vendors need to let me know. Do I need to tell them that you want a new credit score, for example, if we just keep sticking with Vantage as our example, right? Is there something I need to send over in the data differently? So there's all of these other dependencies that haven't been worked out yet. So hard for the vendors and the lenders to take their final steps towards action.
Oh, I get it. But it is nice to know that you've got a complete team behind the scenes watching to see when this may happen.
We
And when,
absolutely do. And
yeah.
despite
Now,
what I said about spending hours gazing into a crystal ball, that does not mean that we don't spend hours thinking about what we do know, right? And
I
how to
bet you do.
operationalize what we do know.
I bet you do. Now, one of the first places I imagine lenders are going to see the impact of some of these changes is going to be in the examination process. How do you see that playing out?
I think it depends on who you are. I think if your examiner has not changed, I'm not convinced that there's going to be a huge difference. So if we think about it, if we look at the CFPB examination, FDIC, our regulators' examination guides have not changed, right? To my knowledge, they post their guides. I have not seen any changes to these examination guides, meaning the guides the examiners follow and that are posted for lenders to understand what's involved in an examination. Possibly the players will change, right? The CFPB has said they're going to focus more on depositories than IMBs, but IMBs were always subject to state examinations. So maybe the states will step up the frequency because the CFPB maybe left a void, but they were really only looking at the largest of the IMBs. So I know we've talked a lot about changing in the examination and focus. If anything, I think it might be more beneficial because the Bureau has announced that they're going to focus on actual consumer harm, right? Measurable harm to the consumer and actual fraud. So it may be a little bit more navigable, let's call it, for lenders within their exam.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense. And it's probably going to bring a lot of comfort to lenders too, to know what they're being judged on and
It
how.
is
So
always
that's
nice to know exactly what are the judges looking for.
right, exactly. Now, successful lenders, if I know anything about them, and I've reported on them for years, is that they don't like to sit on their hands. They don't like to sit around and wait for something to happen. They want to do something. So, what would you suggest lenders do in this period before these changes are actually?
Yeah, I mean, to me, take advantage of the calm before a potential storm, right? To me, in compliance, this is actually a really exciting time. Dodd-Frank is behind me. I don't have a decade of marching to someone else's tune, right? Making changes that are forced upon me. I can take a breather, look around, and make the changes I want to make. And that may mean evaluating my systems, right? Compliance has a technology component, and that to me is going to be the future of compliance in the next few years. Proper oversight, proper risk management means understanding the technology that you and your team and your partners are using. And it really means a new learning curve for a lot of compliance officers where we may be regulatory experts and have our own alphabet soup, but technology is introducing a whole new world of acronyms and jargon for us, especially when we start talking about AI. So, this is a great time to start learning these tools, learning what is out there, and just getting a basic understanding of what a lot of this means. So, from a compliance perspective, to me, this is look around. Are your processes as up to date as they could be? Is your vendor due diligence where it needs to be? Is your understanding of these things where it could be?
Now, that's one of the things I know Mortgage Cadence does a really good job of is helping guide lenders through that process that you just described. What part, if any, does your team play in that, or are you back just watching all the changes?
No, I mean, compliance in a bubble. I mean, honestly, I feel like that's what it was when I started way back when. But that is really outdated, right? Compliance means nothing if it is not operationalized. So it is in the entire loan process and it has to be operationalized in every person's role. So for us, our team, both our product and our compliance team, we are actively engaged. We have regular meetings with all of our clients. We have sort of open mic night with our customers where we can just say anything in a non-judgmental. We don't take minutes. We just spew out whatever questions and concerns we might have, right? As peers, as compliance peers, just trying to get a handle on things. And that really helps our team, right? I mean, obviously we do the things we're supposed to do. We monitor, we discuss, but that constant open dialogue about how you operationalize the compliance changes or even existing something that you haven't looked at in 10 years, maybe you're not doing it the most efficient way you could be doing it. Those are the kinds of discussions I think that are the most productive from a compliance standpoint.
Absolutely. Well, Melissa, I want to thank you for making me feel a whole lot less anxious about, and I'm sure you've done the same for lenders, Folks, we've been visiting with Melissa Kozicki. She is the head of compliance director, I should say, for Mortgage Cadence. Melissa, I can already tell I need to have you back on the show as things change, because things are going to drop and we're going to need to make sense of it. So I hope you'll join me again in the future.
Sounds great. Thank you.
Thanks for being here.